Okay, so for everyone that's watching, basically we thought, how often do you get to teach someone a game from the ground up? And with the Age of Empires 2 and Age of Empires 3 definitive editions on the way, we thought it would be a good time to make some content like this, especially since we're just starting with Escape, and we're both going to want to be casting different the games. So eventually I want to cast Age of Empires 2, and Robo will join in on Age 3, but we need to know how that works. So early on, it seems like a good idea to just do some coaching on stream and things like that, and just get into it that way. So that's what we're going to do. And now I'm going to intro a YouTube video, which we thought we'd call Into the New World. Into the New World.
Yeah, it's a bit of cringy pun, but I think it suits.
That's going to be the YouTube, and it'll be on there for any sort of newcomers. The game's now going to look very different.
Okay. Is that something I should be worried about, or?
Yes, because this is how it will look when anyone first installs the game.
My mouse doesn't go to the edge of the screen.
No, it's in full screen mode. So that's that. So basically, we're going to fix this. When you install the game for the first time, you'll be met with this, and if you want it to look actually good, you're going to head into the options menu, because the game doesn't really optimize itself very well. It was released in 2005, but hopefully the definitive edition will fix all of this stuff. But let's start with the graphics options, because obviously the game to look good.
Sure.
So window mode is really important, because when you're tabbing in and out, you don't want it to be taking forever, and pick the correct resolution, which is obviously 1920 by 1080, so 1080p. The bitrate, put that as high as it goes. I think it already is as high as it goes, so that's good.
Yep.
Refresh rate 60. I do have VSync on. Otherwise, you end up with some weird sort of sound issues, because VSync will limit it to 60 frames per second, which is all you need. And also it'll look better, but I would recommend having that on. Anti-alias I'd put on. Let's just turn everything on. Let's make the game look beautiful. Age of Empires 3. Yeah, high.
We're going high. Okay. We're going to
very
max
high.
out everything.
There's also another very high. Those are on. Yeah, you definitely keep going. Footprints. So that one should stay on, and even if you have the game on minimum graphics, because perhaps your computer's no good, or maybe you're a top player, even top players will have footprints on, because when you're on a snow map, you can see footprints, which is quite helpful.
Okay, so you know where the enemy units are, basically.
I don't really know if it's actually that helpful in competitive, but it might be. So there's not really any reason not to. Particle quality can go up to maximum as well.
Okay, that's maximum.
Oh, so there's low or normal.
Nice.
Helpfully, and these I think the maximum is high anyway, so that's fine.
That's all stuck.
Okay, let's press OK, and the game should look fine.
Okay, black screen for a minute.
Okay,
while it loads up.
This really is the basics, but it's got to be done. It's got to be done, especially if this ends up on YouTube.
This looks much better. I like this.
Okay, so let's go to Help and Tools again.
Yep.
We're going to Options. We're going to go to UI options. So you're going to want minimized UI on. Basically, when you're in game, the camera can't see me, but this makes the UI smaller, so you can see more of the map, and therefore you might see hussars coming into your base, and it's just more helpful. You want the minimized chat, because when you're chatting, you want it just to be a text box rather than too much, so you can see more of the screen if you happen to have to talk to allies. Friend faux colors depends if you want that on or not. Advanced improvement information is correct as well. I'd start with friend faux colors off, just because.
Okay, cool.
But you can always put it on. It's quite easy. Alt key shows the hit point bar. That's definitely helpful, because you'll want to see hit points of villagers and of enemy units that you're trying to micro down. Do not invert Control Shift functionality unless you want to confuse yourself. That might be a good idea for a tournament.
So that just switches, like Control does what Shift does, and Shift does what Control does.
I don't know why anyone would do that. I don't know why it's an option.
That sounds a little bit insane, but okay.
But it's in there, and don't put that on by mistake. Otherwise, you're going to confuse yourself. These the World Tooltips delay and Game UI Tooltips delay. Set that to short as it possibly goes. This is basically when you hover. Leave that one at the top.
Okay.
When you hover over a treasure. Basically, if you have it as short as possible, the information of what the treasure is, so if it's 50 food or 50 gold or whatever it is, it'll appear instantly. And if you make those tooltips longer, you have to hover over the treasure for longer before it will,
show up and actually tell me what I want to know.
Yeah, and if you're in a hurry, you don't really want to be waiting. IMME, I don't know what that is, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay, cool. So that's all done then?
EscapeAoE 4 has been playing for a long time and literally just discovered that the tooltips can be adjusted a few days ago. Nice. Okay.
We're teaching even experienced players how to do these things.
Well, he said he already knew, but maybe this is even helpful for not so new players. I need to fix those things. Eagle Mutt says. Okay, this is good. Right, game options.
Okay.
So here is here. You can set your
that's capital.
in-game Robo-Boro.
Yeah, let's just yell it out.
Okay, so scroll speed is like how quickly do you want that to move? So Robo has it quite high, and if you want to mimic Age of Empires 2 camera, then have that as short as possible. Okay. So if you increase like the acceleration to be long, it takes sort of imagine something going from 0 to 60. The camera sort of does that. It's I don't know. Depends if you want that or not. I have it personally on the longest acceleration when I'm casting, just so it looks smooth and silky. But when you're actually playing, you don't really want to be waiting for the camera to speed up before it gets to where
you just want to go there right now because you have to do stuff.
Cool. Nothing else here. The only other thing to point out might be online privacy. If you don't want to receive messages from people or stuff like that, you might need that at some point in the future. If that's something you're interested in, you don't. Yeah. Anyway, that's everything that I think. Check sound options. So, would recommend if you're playing Age of Empires 3 for various reasons, having the in-game sound up to maximum. So the volume and ambient sound and everything like this, you can turn music on and off if you want. There's a little checkbox there. No. But have the sound up to maximum and then adjust the sound of the game if you want it more quiet or less loud. Perhaps I got my words mixed up there. More quiet?
That still works. They understand what we mean.
Yeah, then just do it in the volume mixer.
Okay. Chat saying camera zoom?
Oh, yeah, that's right, definitely. So camera zoom should be very far.
Very far.
So basically,
so you'll see lots of stuff.
Yeah. So you know how I was zooming in and out during the commentary. That will be the maximum zoomed outness. You'll see as much as the map as you can, and that's obviously helpful in case something is coming into your base and you'll see it. You can just see more information on the screen. Okay. So that's everything done. Press OK.
Okay.
And then we're going to go back and do hotkeys next. So.
Hotkeys.
Okay, so let's just go through them from top to bottom. So we're on general game hotkeys here. So basically, we're going to allow conflicts in the bottom left before we even start.
Okay.
And half the time, it doesn't matter if they conflict because let's say you're training a hussar and you've assigned that to the letter A, and then you've also assigned, I don't know, let's say a Sawa, which is an Indian unit, to A as well. Well, if you're playing the Eurociv, you're not going to be making hussars and Sawas at the same time, so your conflicts are usually fine, and it won't unassign them. So just bear that in mind. So you can get weird crossovers, but you shouldn't have that if you're doing what I say here. So I think the first thing to look for is general game hotkeys, which are on, and attack move. So this is, I personally use the space bar, because it's just really big, and it's something you're going to be pressing a lot. It's a bit like patrolling in on AoE 2, I think. Yep. I don't know. But pick something you're used to. So Q.
Q is what I use for patrol in AoE 2, so I'll stick with that.
Okay, that's the only thing here that you need. So let's go over to game world hotkeys.
Okay.
And, there's nothing in here either. So let's just move on to selection group hotkeys. So, basically, how do you want to grab control 1, 2, and 3? Because I personally, select control 7 with the letter T on my keyboard. And that's because I'm used to pressing T to access my town center. So I always hotkey the town center to control 7. But if you don't do anything weird and funky like me, then there's no need.
I think for now, just stick with the standard. One question, if you double tap the number, does it center on it?
If you single tap it, it selects it, and if you double tap it, it goes straight to it.
Okay. So it works the same as AoE 2.
But that's actually partly why I hotkey my town center, because I don't want to be taken away from what I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, so that's the reason there. Next, we'll go on to find unit hotkeys.
Yep.
So your explorer is your scout. You're probably going to be hotkeying him anyway, but I use /.
That's probably fine for now.
Idle villager, you probably want tab, since that's...
tab. Target key is reserved and may not be remapped.
Well, rest in peace.
Poop.
Can anyone in the chat? Can you tell us why we can't use tab?
Yeah, I like tab. Tab is a good button, but okay, we'll work with space for the time being.
Right, we'll get back to tab. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but we'll figure that out in a bit once chat gets back to us, hopefully. Next, so idle military. Do you have that in H2?
Yes. Is it useful in AoE 3 though?
Can be. I like to have it mapped, but I don't really. You shouldn't be using it because you should know where you're. But sometimes you're gonna have idle military by mistake.
Cool, that's fine.
You can't use tab apparently. Oh dear.
Oh, that's annoying.
That could be really difficult.
Well, that's the only hotkey that I use for tab, so I can use that with space. I need to use something new for.
That's awkward because Robo's really used to it. Thankfully, though, Idlevilles aren't going to be something you have to deal with as often with in Age 2. But yeah, I can see that being...
I'll just have to work around it.
Yeah, okay. So there's a hotkey down the bottom for selecting all of a selected type of building. So if you have a stable, you can just select all your stables by pressing a button. That might be helpful.
So find all the selected type?
Yeah. Do you want to use that?
So that's like globally over the entire map. It selects everything.
So yeah, if you have like a stable selected and then you press Control-Shift-A, you'll select every stable. Which
does that also work with like villages and military units, everything?
It works with everything.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it looks like you can't use tab at all for some reason. That's really weird, but okay.
Okay, so this is a useful hotkey, it seems.
It could be. So you're going to set it to \. That seems like a good one to do. So there's also all idle villages. That one I do use sometimes. Like if you're about to go into a fight and you don't want like 8 idle villages, you can just like press that. It's not ideal because obviously you want to be sending them to the resources they're close to. But if you just want to get into the fight and make sure everything's working, you can slam that hotkey. Tell them to go somewhere. They might walk halfway across the map to do it, but at least they're not idle, right?
Yeah, and they're not, potentially dying, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also all idle fishing boats, but that's probably less likely. You probably, unless you really want to select it, just so you know
I
it's
think
there.
I'll just leave it for the time being and come back to it later.
So let's go on to ones you probably will be using. Building construction hotkeys.
First of all, I need to switch this fine selection because that's going to conflict.
That's true.
I'm probably not going to need that. Why can't I double click to change?
Yeah, finding the selection probably isn't helpful because usually if you've got a unit, you've already found it. So why would you need to jump to
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah.
It's probably not useful, so I'll just get that out of the way. Somewhere useless, I mean.
There's an all idle villages hotkey. There is, absolutely. It does feel a bit like cheating, but it's a pretty good hotkey. It's not as good as you think it is, though. But anyway, so let's do building construction hotkeys.
Building construction. Okay.
And really, just go through these, whatever's sort of comfortable for you, whatever you're used to. So artillery foundry is like a siege workshops. Your barracks is a barracks. Church is a monastery, I guess.
Yeah.
Monastery is a monastery.
Can it be the same thing?
Yeah, it can be the same because for different civs, they have churches or monasteries. Dock, yep.
Onto the town center now, I guess.
Straight to, building with, TC hotkeys. So you want to get rid of the bell, just like in Age 2. We don't want that, so none plus or whatever you want. Right.
Whoops, no, I don't
Enter.
want
That seems like...
No, that's something that I might use.
Return to work. I guess you won't be using it either, but it doesn't matter.
So that only works after the bell's been rung?
Yeah, correct.
It doesn't work just with any villages that are
No,
inside?
we don't have that mechanic, so unlucky.
Okay.
Eject, so that's something you might want, and that's all of the ones that are relevant in here.
I don't need to have like a hotkey for villager?
Oh, yeah, you do.
I can't use scroll wheel?
No, you can't.
What?
Really? These are some weird...
I create all of my units with scroll wheel, up or down.
Really? Oh, okay, that's interesting. That could be really tough for you then.
Yeah. All the common units, like the two most common are like up and down.
Yeah.
And then the extra ones get a keyboard setting.
I think you'll... I mean, obviously, it'd be better if you could build with the scroll wheel that you're used to, but I think you'll pick it up quite quickly because it's a different game and you'll be in a different headspace.
Yeah. Okay, so multiple villages, what does that mean?
So when you press E, when you press Q, you get 1 villager, but if you press Shift V, you get 5 queued.
Okay.
Just like in Age of Empires 2.
Yeah, but for Age 2, like, the shift is just default. It gives you 5. You don't need to manually set it yourself.
Oh, okay.
You press Shift and whatever the key is, and it's 5.
Yeah. You're unlikely to be training 5 villagers at a time, though, because you don't want to queue up idle resources, right?
Yeah, obviously, but it might be useful at some point. Envoys, they're kind of cool.
Don't bother with it. You're so unlikely to
Colonial
train
militia?
No, you're so unlikely to be
I'll
training
leave that
them.
on A. So it's just
But
the ungarrison, that's the only important one, and villages.
Yep.
Cool.
So let's head on over to barracks hotkeys.
Oh my god. So many units.
Yeah.
Why are the colonial militia in the barracks?
Probably for the campaign. I don't know. You can train colonial militia in the barracks for some reason.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep. No Buttercup hotkey. Yeah, not today. Poor Buttercup. Buttercup's
Okay, so how many of these units like stack are like the exact same sort of unit?
quite a few are the same unit. So I think since your scroll wheel doesn't work, we'll just go with my hotkeys, which I think makes sense, and I can shout at you what they are as well. So basically, the unit on the left is A, and the unit on the right is S most of the time.
Abilities? Is that the next?
Yeah, abilities would probably be that if you don't want to set up any of those.
Okay, yep, that's fine. Okay.
All right, so
Sure.
sharpshooter D, eagle eye F is what I have.
Sure. Okay, we'll just copy you for all these ones.
Yeah, convert guardian to D as well.
Convert guardian.
Stun to D. Just basically, these are all the explorer abilities, and you want consistency there, otherwise they'll just confuse you. And then all the ones on the bottom, I would just change to num sub. So the bottom 4 are wonder abilities, and you almost it's very like you're more likely to press these keys by mistake and activate your wonders ability
when you don't want to.
When you don't want to, yeah.
Okay,
so just
sure.
don't hotkey them at all. Would
And
be
then
my
what about
advice.
all these ones that all say W?
That's fine. They can all say W.
Okay, cool. And then the other ones, just don't worry about them for the time
Yeah,
being.
don't worry about them. So command hotkeys. So it's just repairing. So instead of clicking the picture, you can click a building and then press sort of R to repair it, and then it repairs itself.
Right, buildings can repair themselves?
Yeah, you don't have villagers repair things. Instead, it costs wood, but you have to toggle the building to repair itself.
Okay.
It can't be repaired whilst it's under attack.
Okay, can it repair things while it's also making units?
Yeah, it can.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I doubt you'll ever want to stop it repairing, but sometimes that's possible. There's eject units, so I just changed that to whatever your other eject unit was.
Okay, cool.
Just for consistency. And the final one will be unit tactics, which will be probably important. So volley mode, I have on W. This is basically ranged mode.
Sure.
And then the next one would be infantry melee mode.
Yep.
I use E just because in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, to use your knife, you pressed E and then he'd go into melee and do his melee attack.
Okay, cool. So that carries over.
Yeah, so that's why I did that. Cavalry melee mode E. Then I would go to
E. Yep.
cover mode. I'd set to Q. So cover mode is like the units take less damage when under fire, but they have half damage. So they do half damage, but they also take less damage themselves. This is often only useful if, like, say, an outpost is targeting one unit. You'd select that one unit and put him in cover mode, because then he's more tanky, and then your opponent might want to switch to a different unit. But cover mode is sort of abusable in that sense. And then bombard mode, this is for your cannons. I'd put that as also W, which is the same as volley mode. So there's consistency there, because sometimes your cannons are going to do, you have to unpack them like trebuchets, but instead you just press W to do it.
Okay.
Is there a hotkey for unpacking trebs? Oh, you just right-click on the thing.
But normally you just right-click to attack and it'll just unpack by itself.
Okay.
And if I wanted to unpack a trebuchet by myself, I'd just click the button.
Right, well, that's all of the hotkeys.
Do I not need a hotkey for limber?
No, because usually you just click somewhere on the map and it would go back. If it's a certain distance away, then it just goes back to limbo mode automatically.
Okay, so you just click far away.
If you're going far distances, then yeah.
Okay.
If you're going short distances, it will stay in bombard mode.
Okay, nice.
Cool.
Do I need to worry about these next ones?
No, we're all done if you're just playing French.
Cool. Okay, sweet. We're going well then.
All right, PogChamp. We can get into the content. That was hotkeys.